you
Yeah,
know?
that's good that you say that because I think it gets murky sometimes. And I've actually struggled with this before, the concept of, okay, yes, my family is my priority. But part of that is providing maybe for your family is a
Hmm.
priority.
Yeah.
So because of that, you now have to do more to get the financial resources for your family.
Welcome back to another episode of the Parenting Potential Podcast. My name is Charles,
And I'm Monet.
and this is episode 5.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
5 episodes in to season
Season.
2. And how you feeling?
I feel good. It's going fast. We're having good things we're talking about, and
I
I'm
mean, how are you feeling?
oh. Well, I feel fantastic. Tired, the baseline, but happy tired today.
Happy tired. That's a new one.
I know. I feel
Okay,
happy even though I'm tired.
good. Yeah, and I feel great. I feel great.
Excellent.
So, topic today:
Mm-hmm.
work life balance. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something you hear a lot in different articles and seminars and YouTube videos. And we actually came across an article by the CEO of TIA, TIAA, which is a financial firm. And she likened work life balance not being possible, but understanding that it has ebbs and flows, ups and downs. And she likened it to a portfolio, a diversified portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'll stop there. I want to see what your thoughts are, and we can go a little bit more into it. But this,
Yeah, well, I think work life balance, that whole concept is so convoluted. And yes, everybody talks about it, hears it. People either believe that you can achieve it or not. And like you said, this particular author doesn't necessarily feel like you can have work life balance. But what I love and what I've heard of in the past also be said is the idea that it may not be a balance, but there are times that you can focus more on certain priorities. And then maybe other priorities kind of get pushed to the side a little bit. And then there are other times when it reverses and those other priorities can
yep.
be in the forefront. And that really, I feel like there's no truer way than to explain what a healthy way life can be when you have so many different competing responsibilities, roles, tasks, things on your plate. There's just no way you can balance it all. And I
Because
think
when you say
about,
balance, it's supposed to be even,
right. Yeah.
like the exact amount of time for the same exact amount of time for this. Everything's equal.
Yeah. And when I think what we have going on, if we truly had that, it's like everything would get maybe 3 minutes and
Yeah, no,
barely could do anything.
and you're right. And the thing that I liked the most about the article was the idea that, and you kind of hinted to this, seasons. There's seasons in your life where you're going to probably need to put a little bit more into studying, for example, or work.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there's seasons where, hey, you know what? I need to take a couple of days off from work and be with my family or do whatever else I
Mhm.
need to. Now, this is stuff that we have not been doing, but we need to, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that it will balance out, quote unquote, in the long run, just like the idea of a balanced portfolio. So the stock market goes up and down, up and down. It's so volatile. And if you pay attention to the short term, you can say, oh man, I should just sell that stock off because it's going down so
Yeah.
drastically and I'm going to keep losing if I don't. Well, if you kind of look at it from a long term perspective, it really is going up. It's going down and up and down and up, but it's still going at an upward trajectory.
Yes.
And I think that that's kind of what the CEO was talking about was over time, everyone will get the time they need
Mm-hmm.
to feel, and I'm paraphrasing this, to feel like they're getting the attention necessary to feel valued, whether it's work, whether it's your kids, family,
Mm-hmm.
specifically your husband, your wife, right? So,
Looking for exclusive Winslow Tribe content, including funny videos of our family, recorded reflection conversations from each episode, downloadable templates we use for efficiently and effectively raising two toddlers while working full time and busy schedules, and more? Then become a Patreon Tribe member today. We promise you won't be disappointed. Click the link in the description.
what are your
And
thoughts?
one important thing that she did say is you really have to, first of all, think about all those different things you want to quote unquote balance your
Yeah.
time to, and make, whether it's prioritize them or make some type of organized grouping of, okay, this is something that I can devote time to. This is. And then, yes, in different seasons, say, okay, at this point in time, I have to put more focus and attention and time on these priorities, or maybe this priority always requires a little bit, at least every single day, because we have a lot of things like that in our
Yeah.
life. I think obviously our girls, the time, the attention, the focus that we have to give them. I mean, there's always a baseline we're going to give them every single day, no matter what else is going on
Yeah.
in that season. But then there's maybe some seasons where we can devote more. Oh, we can do even more creative activities with them, or we can really take them a lot of places and do this. And then there's other times things are crazy. We're just trying to keep things afloat. So we have to devote some more time to these other things and maybe pull back in ways there. And so it's knowing what is really important and how you can meet the needs of each of those important priorities. And this is really an exercise of you like analyzing those things first before dishing out your time. Because we all have but only so much time and a finite amount. And we might have different amounts of responsibilities in different times of our lives, different complexities of our responsibilities, and different time constraints of them. And that might change, but it's checking back in and say, okay, what do I need to devote where, so that I feel overall I have good balance.
I guess it's subjective. And how do you discern? How would you discern the amount of time that needs to go to said priority?
Well, like you had mentioned, we're struggling in this
Hmm.
area, but we've talked about this in the past, and I've said I think the most important thing for us is to bird's eye view, just kind of think about, okay, what are all the things? And not only what are all the things, but if I were to sit here and say, what do I prioritize in my life? What
Yeah,
is
we
important
spoke
to me?
about pillars. I think that was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
season one. Go back to season one, y'all. Check out that episode, revisit it. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good because we did touch on this before. The thinking about those pillars or those things in your life
Hmm.
that are important for you. Because it's so funny. I think a lot of people talk about, oh, my family or my spouse or my health are the most important things to me. And we might all have a list that can kind of look similar because idealistically, or like it sounds good, or you think it's the thing to say that those things are the most important to you. But when all is said and done and it comes down to it, what you state is your priority and what you actually devote your time to, a lot of times for some strange reason, can look very different from each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
And if you looked at where I spend my time in a particular day, and you correlated the things that I spent the most time on to what I place the most value and weight on,
Hmm.
you'd get what I would call my priorities. Totally twisted.
Right, because I guess if you let it run its course without much thought and kind of being on autopilot based on how you already operate, you probably wouldn't be too happy with how you divvy up your time.
Yeah.
right? And so now, and I don't want to give too much away for the reflections at the end of this episode, or you can just read it in the description, right? But it's I'll say this: everyone's priorities and the weight they put in the priorities looks different based upon what they value. Some people value family more than work, and work
Mhm.
more than family, and health more than work, and relaxation more than work. Like
Mhm.
it's all over the place, and no one's wrong, right? You don't want to. We're not judging anybody. We're not saying one way is better than the other, but
Mhm.
you have to really think through that. What is the top priorities for
Mhm.
you,
Mhm.
and then think about getting diversified in that portfolio, and then understanding that maybe that needs to be readjusted in a couple of months.
Yeah. And then going forward, because again, you might think, okay, this is my top priority. It's this and it's that, it's that. But then when you look at your day, it's like, huh, it's funny because I'm not spending a lot of time, or sometimes I'm neglecting what I say is a huge priority to me. And sometimes you can take things for granted. I think a lot of times what we state are our biggest priorities are maybe those things that we just know we have. We have the comfort and the safety of, like our family members, for example. Maybe our belief system, our religion, that, oh, those are my priorities, and you say that, but maybe you're like, but like, I know I got that. I know there's safety in that. So I don't have to put in so much time.
Mm.
And there's that quote that I told you about not too long ago. And you said, yeah, you've heard that before. The idea that nothing stays the same, it's either improving
Or getting
or
worse.
getting worse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was off. It was dealing with relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It might have been,
yeah,
but I think it can apply to anything.
yeah. That's a really good. That's a really good like input there. And I'll let you finish because I do have a thought on that. But go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the idea that I think sometimes you could take something for granted. If we take our relationship with our spouse, for example, you might say, oh, yeah, that's one of my highest priorities. But with the hustle and bustle of life and all these other things, you may not be prioritizing putting in that work or the time into your relationship with your spouse, doing routine date nights, conversations and check ins, just spending good quality time together because you're like, well, they're my spouse. I love them. They know that. And we, hey, we're going to get time eventually. But living life and going through day by day and just saying, I don't have to work on this, eventually, if you're not working on it, it's not improving. And it's not just staying stagnant.
Yeah, but also it's not about just devoting time to it because you can devote time to something,
Mm-hmm.
but not be of quality. And so
Yeah.
it might seem like you're doing something, but you really aren't doing anything. Like I can spend time with you right now and just not have any substance, not ask for how you feel, not even really be paying attention to you. But we're in the same room and we might be in the car, for example, driving. I might be sitting with Anaya or Leilani is driving and walking, but
Mm-hmm.
not having any conversation. So it goes back to that quote is if you're actually not being intentional with the time that you're devoting to said priority, it could be getting worse too. Just because you're spending time on it doesn't mean that it's actually getting better
Yeah.
or improving.
Yeah. And the concept too that we recently were talking about of we were saying something about spending 1 hour of really focused time on something is going to be more efficient and effective than spending, let's say, 6 hours of some sort of undivided time or multitasking
Yeah.
time. And so, what you're saying about essentially quality over quantity or just quality in
Hmm.
general, when you're making that priority list or you're searching through your soul and your mind of what are the things that I want to devote my time to and have that balance with. thinking about like how can I really devote that work and that attention to that thing? What does that look like? Spending time with your spouse doesn't necessarily look like, well, yeah, every night we're together once the children go to bed and like
Mm-hmm.
we're coexisting until we fall asleep. It's, hey, now that the children are down to bed, let's spend the next hour and just have like a little bit of tea and some cookies
Mm-hmm.
and just sit here and talk with our phones completely away. And we really ask each other about our days and intentionally listen and have a discussion about something interesting. Like, that's really what it is. And you thinking about, like, will I feel like I devoted to that priority, that I invested in that priority? And it wasn't just, oh, yeah, I have it and that's it, like a checkbox.
Mm. So my question for you, because this is about parenting. So let's just take that everyone listening to this most likely have their kids as one of their priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And so walk us through what time, for example, would be useful and of quality with said kid. Like what does that look like? Give an example what you would want. I know that we have a tough time getting the
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one time and the quality of time that we would like with each girl sometimes because we're working or we're rushing and we're just trying to make sure their teeth are brushed and
Mm-hmm.
hair is did.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, this is kind of I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on what that would look like for you.
Well, I'd say that working under the premise of work life balance, which is what the topic of our discussion is, my days, at least Monday through Friday, very much look like I get up and I have limited time here when the girls are awake before I have to leave and be
Hmm.
at work for essentially the whole day.
Hmm.
And that means that the limited time I might have with Leilani, for example, and if I even get to see Anaya for a minute or two before I go off to work because she sleeps in a little bit later, it's okay, I have these moments and it's pretty routine that I go up and get Leilani, and I actually look forward to that.
Hmm.
I get her from the crib. I spend those couple minutes when I walk into her room, and she loves to talk when you first walk into there. So I engage her
Hmm.
and we talk for a little bit before I bring her downstairs. And she will be pointing out different things in her room and talking about them. And we'll put her stuffed animals to sleep in her crib before we leave the room.
Hmm.
And just going through that little practice with her when we're talking a little bit and I see her smiling face and we're giggling and talking together is a nice moment that we share.
Hmm.
And then we go downstairs and I have that routine of the things I have to get ready for her, washing her face and changing her clothes and nursing her and then giving her her breakfast and just those little things. She likes to eat some of my bagel before I run out the door. And even that's something where I know she's going to ask for some and I will give her a little piece. And that is for me how I can most balance that. Although I have work to run off to, and I pretty much am rushing out the door every day, just trying to make it to the last minute,
Yeah.
pushing it for time to get to work.
It's
I
quite
am able
interesting to see. You
to
do a very good job. I'm like,
running
this
around.
girl's stressing me out. By the way, she's running
Yeah.
and trying to push it to the very last second. But go ahead, sorry.
But it's nice to have like, okay, yes, I might push it by 3 minutes just so that yes, I can do one or two more things with Leilani, whether that means watch her until she finishes her entire bowl of oatmeal or whatever it may be. And that is my time that I say, this is a busy season in my life. I do work and I work a job that has me leaving early in the morning and coming back later in the evening. But that's how I can really cherish my time with my daughter, who is a priority of mine, um, in the morning before I go, and balance that.
And so it's really the moments, right? And
Yeah.
I think that it's what I'm hearing is you don't have a lot of time with
Hmm.
the girls, but the time you do have, you make it an experience that you enjoy, that they enjoy, because it's about the intentionality behind it. Going
Hmm.
slow, like the fact that you said when I walk in there, she likes to start talking, and then I watch her eat her oatmeal, and so
Hmm.
it's like you're really taking in every moment, every detail of your interactions, and I think that's important too. That's kind of one of those you're trying to grow versus get worse with
Yeah.
your relationship, even though you don't have as much. Because some people might have a whole day with their child, and maybe they take that for granted, like you said earlier. And so maybe I don't have to be as intentional throughout the day because I see you all hours of the waking day.
Yeah. Now, again, not perfect in this realm by any means,
Hmm.
because I think at the end of the day, which I'm really trying to get out of this, but my work day is, not to say it's long, but there's a lot involved in my work day, and I'm talking all day long and running back and forth and engaging in a lot of different conversations and dealing with some sometimes serious things and sometimes more complex things.
Hmm.
And it gets to the point where at the end of my day, I am exhausted and I come home. And in some ways, I think I don't give the proper balance that I want to back to my life when I'm coming back from work.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to do
Explain
better
that.
at.
Explain that.
I think, again, the work life balance. You say, hey, it's nice when you're able to have an 8 to 5 job.
Hmm.
That's in some way a better work life balance than maybe somebody who might have a crazier schedule with long, maybe 12 to 14-hour days, or maybe they're working 6 days a week. Like I have what would be called a pretty nice, basic, structured work life balance schedule, to mean that I go to work and then I can balance that I'm home and get to do all of the things. And sometimes I feel like I bring maybe the fatigue of my day home to from work, and maybe I bring whatever else, if there was any frustration that might have happened, if there was any chaos or something that I wish I could have done better. Not to say I bring like baggage from work home, but I do bring whatever from my day that may influence the way that I would now get to balance and have complete home time.
So how do you overcome that?
I think one thing, and I told you during my residency that I really liked this idea that I saw another one of my co residents take on, is basically when I am at work, I am at work. And I remember she said this, that she would put her phone on a do not disturb, except for maybe allowing a couple of people to be able to reach her for emergency purposes, maybe her husband or whatever, but really keeping it like she's focused on her work, she's doing it, she's going to get it done, be really in that. Again, like we're saying, that effectiveness, that quality. And then the same thing would happen when she went home. And this was her way of maintaining some sort of work life
Hmm.
balance, even though our residency schedule was crazy. And some weeks we were working 80 hours. That it's okay, when I am home, I am now home. And I'm not having my work phone on doing, unless, of course, it's a
Yeah.
time where you needed to be reached by your work phone because you're on call or whatever. It was very much a divide. And that's what I want to do to better my work life balance. And I think in that practice of organizing what your priorities are, treating it more like distinct bubbles and not Venn diagrams where there's a lot of
Overlap.
overlap. Yeah. Unless it's helpful to you to have some type of overlap, like maybe it's a priority for me to work out and it's a priority for me to have quality time with my spouse. Maybe in some ways I could work out with my
I
spouse,
like that approach. Yeah, and I
which
think
could be helpful too. Yeah.
And I think one thing too is important is when you think about these set priorities, think
Mhm.
about the goals because you can say my family's a priority, but what is your goal? Like,
Mhm.
do you want a better relationship? Do you want to? Because some of it might be if you think about family and your kids, you want to help your kids, you know, be better in an academic subject area or a sport or
Mhm.
spiritually, right? And so I think that helps kind of really direct your time if you only have, let's say, for example, 5 minutes for one of the priorities, which is still a
Mhm.
priority. What's the goal? Because once you know the goal, then you know exactly what you need to do most likely to get to that goal. So
And
it's
that
not just, you
yeah,
know,
that's good that you say that because I think it gets murky sometimes. And I've actually struggled with this before the concept of, okay, yes, my family is my priority. But part of that is providing maybe for your family is a
hmm
priority.
yeah,
So, because of that, you now have to do more to get the financial resources for your family.
yeah.
So, that might mean working more and being out of the house more and away from your family.
But the funny thing about that, for example, like
Hmm.
I've always heard these stories, and it's been years hearing these stories, but like I think sometimes people, and I fall into this category, I think at times, taking care of your family, right? Like sometimes you get to the point where they are actually taken care of, but you get too entrenched with being on that autopilot that
Hmm.
you forget that maybe you can dial back a little bit in some ways, right?
Yeah. And again, what is your goal? Because your goal may be I need to provide so that they're not wanting for anything, that all
hmm
of their needs and even a lot of their desires are being met. But another goal is that I have a real true connection and bond with them
Yeah. Because
because
I
it
didn't not to cut
means
you off,
more.
because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, and this is my own opinion, right?
Mhm.
I think just like with my upbringing and my experience growing
Mhm.
up, my priority like now is really is the nuclear family. I know definitely want to prioritize people outside of nuclear family, but like my job, my role is to like help and nurture the people in this house,
Mhm.
and it just would not feel. And I'm still working on this. I don't want to look back and be like, wow, I really did not invest as much in them because I was focusing on doing something that supports them, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Because then, like, what was the point if the kids or you only remember, hey, you were out of town a lot,
Yeah.
and you missed things, and I
Mhm.
have that on my goal list. I keep this goal list on my mirror. It's like don't miss the big things
Yeah.
and the important things.
Yeah. And I can see how that can easily happen when again you have so many different priorities and they maybe compete with each other sometimes and you don't know how to prioritize the priorities, or sometimes you're not sure if you should um, I guess put one thing above another thing, or how you can do that, and maybe how you can have two things at the same time. And that's why I think the most important thing is the practice of really analyzing, like, what is it that you want before you do try to divvy up and put a balance between the
Yeah,
things. Because as we agreed on, it's hard to really have a balance, maybe even impossible to have a balance, but some sort of proportional investment based on things and how important they are to you.
yeah. Again, I think it'll balance, quote unquote, over time,
Mm-hmm.
but just be intentional about what your priorities are,
Yeah.
what the goals are for said priorities, and understand, have awareness to the season you're in and how to adjust the percent of your time towards said priorities, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we can go on for hours talking
Yeah.
about this, but I do think that there's a gist to it, and for like the reflections,
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't have your parenting potential reflections journal, please just email us and you can get that sent to you digitally.
Mm-hmm.
But the reflection that we have for you all is this. I'm just going to pull it up. So make a list of all the things that matter most to you in the order of importance. Again, you might need to take some time to think through this, but examples are God, family, self-care, friends, career. And then take a look at the 168 hours that you have in a week. Write down how those hours are being spent across those things that matter the most. So you might say 40 hours for work, 56 hours for sleep. What do you notice
Mm-hmm.
about the allocation of time towards each and priority compared to how you rank them?
Mm-hmm.
And what changes do you need to make based upon what you observe? And it's really important to be honest with yourself on this. And we're going to do it.
Yeah.
If you're a Patreon member, you'll actually hear our conversation when we walk through the exercise with each other. Really important that if you notice something that's off,
Or opposite.
yeah,
Might be off.
make the adjustment. Ask yourself, does this seem right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to ask ourselves that too. Again, we are not anywhere near where we should be with prioritizing what's important to us and devoting the right amount of time during certain seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a challenge for us as well. And so
Yeah.
we just ask that you be honest with yourself. You don't have to share with anyone else, but just be honest because at the end of the day, this is for you
Yeah.
to be better so that you can actually help raise better humans
Yep. Parent
and
better.
parent better, right? And so, yeah, again, go ahead and do that. Let us know in the comment section if you notice anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what this little exercise does for you, kind of what emotions it brings up, and are you
Put the
surprised?
emoji in the comment
Yes,
in the comment
yes.
section.
Emoji of how this experience walking through this exercise felt to you.
Or
Yeah, and
any
it's
advice too. I mean, I know there's some people out here who are gurus with some of the topics we're talking about. So we'd love to learn too. So with our tribe members. So just engage with us.
yes, we are looking forward to having further discussion about this in our reflection. And I'm actually really looking forward to going through this exercise myself. So I think
Yeah.
it's really important.
Yes. And so if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do that right now. Just do it right now. Like right now. Okay, good.
They did it.
You did it, right? And share this with anyone and everyone you know who you feel could benefit from said episode or episodes or seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And we love to kind of connect more and provide content that helps you think, adjust, and grow
Reflect.
and reflect. But that's the episode for today. Work
Mm-hmm.
life balance. Is it achievable?
Yeah, and let us know what you think about that. Can you truly have a work life balance? What does that really mean to you? Love to hear everybody's thoughts.
Yes. Until next time, y'all. Peace.
Love ya.